Two U.S. cities' lawsuits continue over the legality of Trump ordering state troops to the cities of Chicago and Portland. A protester was shot by ICE agents in Chicago. Allegedly, the female protester was armed with a gun and agents opened fire. Here's the latest updates.
News correspondent Usher Qureshi has more on the president's federalization of troops. Usher, good morning. You know, the administration authorized hundreds of National Guard members to be sent to where you are. Tell us about the preparations for that and the political reaction as well.
Good morning, Errol. Well, local officials have been saying for weeks that there is no need for federal troops here. Now, hundreds of members of Illinois National Guard could be on their way soon. Many could come from the Illinois Guard over objections from Governor J.B. Pritzker. Now, the governor's office said even leadership within the Illinois National Guard has communicated to the White House that the state does not require the military right now. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
They want mayhem on the ground. They want to create the war zone so that they can send in even more troops. Now they're claiming they need 300 of Illinois' National Guard. Well, we didn't need them before they showed up.
Now, according to this memo that we obtained by CBS News, those 300 members of the Illinois National Guard will be brought under federal service and deployed to, quote, protect federal property and government personnel performing federal functions. 400 Texas National Guard are to be split up between Chicago and Portland, Oregon, Errol.
And Usher, at the top of this broadcast, we spoke about a woman shot by federal agents in Chicago over the weekend. What happened there?
That's right. DHS said the agents that were operating in that area were unable to move their vehicles and had to get out of their car. Officials say one of the drivers who was boxing him, this woman, and they said she had a gun, which the agency said was a semi-automatic weapon. DHS said the agents opened fire, striking the driver, who they said is a woman, as I mentioned. She is facing charges as of Sunday morning, Errol.
All right, Usher in Chicago for us.
News this hour, the battle over the deployment of federal troops to tackle local crime is in the courts. Just a short time ago, Illinois filed a lawsuit to stop President Trump from deploying National Guard troops there. The lawsuit, brought by both the city of Chicago and the state, said in part the American people should not live under the threat of occupation. Now, this comes after a Trump-appointed federal judge barred the administration from sending any federal troops to Portland, Oregon. Oregon's governor says the state has the rights to govern itself without federal intervention, insisting the city of Portland is safe.
There's no need for military intervention in Oregon. There's no insurrection in Portland. There's no threat to national security. Oregon is our home. It is not a military target. And Oregonians exercising their freedom of speech against unlawful actions by the Trump administration is their right and should be done so peacefully.
Let's turn now to CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, good to see you today. Can you take us through the legal battles over federal troops on deployment?
Absolutely. It was a big weekend in Oregon, legally speaking. So at first, what happened, there was a challenge to the Trump administration's attempt to federalize the National Guard in Oregon, basically call up the Oregon National Guard and federalize them, just as the same thing happened in Los Angeles, in California, where the Trump administration federalized the California National Guard. A district court judge issued a temporary restraining order and said that looking at the statute that allows the president to federalize the National Guard, that the necessary prerequisites were not present. And so what she said is that the president lacked the authority to federalize the National Guard in Oregon. Now, what happens the next day? The president tries to move troops that were federalized in California to Oregon, in the judge's view, essentially circumventing and undermining her previous ruling. So then there's a very late night hearing last night. The judge issues another temporary restraining order saying not only can the administration not federalize the Oregon National Guard in Oregon, but they cannot move other federalized National Guard members into Oregon because that would undermine her ruling, and it would, she says, essentially collapse the meaning of that particular statute that the president's looking at to give him authority.
Okay, and Jessica, I also want to ask you about this because White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller posted on X earlier today. He said there is no legal distinction between a state volunteering guardsmen to guard the border and volunteering guardsmen to guard a federal immigration facility. Now, either we have a federal government, a supremacy clause, and a nation, or we don't. So, Jessica, what does Miller mean by that, and what does that mean for a similar legal fights that are going forward?
So I think this tees up what we're seeing, frankly, throughout the country and in different areas, which is this battle between the federal government and the state government. Very briefly, when it comes to the state National Guard, what we know is that there is a lot that they can basically volunteer to do, that they can do by consent, where the governor can say that the state National Guard should, for instance, help patrol the state border. When it comes to federal immigration facilities, that really is the province of the federal government. So legally speaking, I would offer there is a distinction, and you want to make sure that the state and the federal government are working in cooperation because there are certain rules with respect to the state not interfering with the federal government's ability to enforce immigration law. And there are certain rules dealing with what, even if those National Guard members are federalized, what they can do once they're on the ground.
Okay, Jessica Levinson, thank you so much. Illinois is suing the president and his administration to stop the deployment of the military to Chicago. This comes after a federal judge blocked the administration from deploying any federal troops to Portland, Oregon. Let's turn now to CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland for much more on this. Scott, thank you for your time today. Can you take us through these rulings and what could come next for Oregon and Illinois?
Amid all these disputes, there's one unifying thread. We are in a golden era of legal filings by the tonnage. You can print enough paper to keep up with what's going on in the federal courthouses in America, in part because of these National Guard challenges. A federal judge in Oregon, appointed by President Trump during Trump's first term, late last night, ruled that you can't send out-of-state National Guard troops to Portland lawfully either. So it's not just the Oregon National Guard that she has blocked, but also the deployment of the California National Guard to Portland, or potentially the Texas National Guard to Portland. She refers to her earlier ruling in which she said it's unlawful to deploy the Guard in this way under these circumstances. So for 2 weeks now, any further deployments, or really any deployments of the National Guard there, are on hold. It's a 2-week pause. Now in Illinois, where the president has suggested, if not begun the process of deploying National Guard troops to Chicago and the Chicagoland area, there's a legal challenge by the state of Illinois to try to have a federal judge there block or at least pause the deployment of Guard troops. These types of legal challenges, add them to the pile of hundreds of legal challenges filed so far in the first year of the president's second term.
Yeah. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, he posted on X earlier today. He said there's no legal distinction between a state volunteering guardsmen to guard the border and volunteering guardsmen to guard a federal immigration facility. Either we have a federal government, a supremacy clause, and a nation, or we don't. So, Scott, what does Miller mean by that? And what does that mean for similar legal fights going forward, including this newest lawsuit by the state of Illinois?
Well, there'd be any number of responses from critics of the administration to what Stephen Miller says there, but I think the primary one is he is equating the southern border, where in so many cases the National Guard has had a regular presence, or at least an invited presence by Republican governors, with cities across America where there is opposition to the president, including from local leadership, where the Guard has not been invited, and where, unambiguously, they have argued the Guard is not needed. In Portland's mayor and the governor of Oregon so successfully argued that the Guard is not needed, that local law enforcement is more than up for the task of handling any unrest. The federal judge noted it as part of the ruling and the opinion there. There is going to be more of these flashpoints that surface. There will be more legal challenges. It's a matter of where, not if, according to so many critics of the administration.
Okay. Scott McFarland in Washington, D.C. for us today.